And I was sharing with her. Mm, probably not. Okay. I was sharing with somebody in the caring center, and it was such an emotional conversation because I was, these feelings of overwhelmed that you get, and you sometimes get, that we talked about briefly the other day. But um, she had and I'll get to the point of baptism in a second. She had a Down syndrome baby, her fourth baby. And it was just an emotional conversation. And I said, "You knew it before you gave birth?" And she said, "Yeah, I knew it." And so, then I told her that's one of the reasons that I was wanting to go to Arizona. I've been praying to the Lord that He gives me a passion for the unborn, because there's no doubt that we're created, we're not evolved, and that God takes no pleasure in what's going on with that. And I really admire Durham for what he's doing with that. Jeff Durbin, he's like the next generation of fundamental Calvinists, or biblical Calvinists. There's I don't know, different types of caged Calvinist or things like that. But this is a mature guy. I think he's mature anyway, and he's only in his 40s, and he started off as and I'll get back to baptism. He started off as a drug counselor, and long story short, the Lord ended up blessing him, and he's opened up Apologia Church, and that was before James White became an elder there. And I don't know how long he's been spearheading end abortion now, but he goes from legislature to all 50 states, and I don't know how much traction it has, but he has almost 1 million followers on his websites. And the thing about it is that I've been looking at some of the videos where he's in front of legislatures, and the arguments that the legislatures are making are infantile, in the sense that, well, I'm Jewish, and it says in the Mishra that it's okay to have an abortion, and the thing about it is that Jeff knows. It seems like he's memorized the entire Bible, but he's able to succinctly and quickly go to the point of making that a ridiculous argument. And then if they want to go scientific, we know that at conception, it is a human being. So if we want to leave God out of the equation, you can do that, but you're going to lose that argument also. So anyway, but anyway, I'm talking to this lady that was telling me she had a Down syndrome child, and yeah, she was all on board with that. She's all on board with no, God created this child, et cetera. And then I told her why I was here, after 20 minutes, whatever. I told her why I was here, and she goes, "Well, I've never seen Andy baptize anybody." And I said, "Well, I was watching, because I watch your show, and I'm not going to call it a show, watch your live stream." And she said, "Well, that was the first time." She's been here, a member here, I guess, a couple of years, and she said that's the first time I've seen him baptize anybody. And
it's very rare, just because there's logistical issues, and also, like Paul in 1 Corinthians 1 is somewhat dismissive about his role in baptizing. He said, "I don't even remember who I baptized."
Oh, yeah.
And then he said, "The Lord did not send me to baptize."
He didn't.
But I'm not Mark, in any way minimizing baptism. I think it's beautiful. If I could be honest, as my cards indicated, I love to watch it.
Me too.
I love to sit out there with the congregation. I get emotional.
Me too. Yeah, it is emotional.
And for me, if I'm doing it, I can't be emotional because I got to focus on the job I have to do.
Right.
But I think Audrey Stewart, we've known the Stewart family, all along. She's like a daughter to me, and to me, she specifically asked if I'd be willing to do it, and I said I was. But I would
That's fine.
All right, and because he's eager, and I'd love to.
I love
introduce-
Mike McGregor. I've talked to
You
him.
talked to him?
I
Okay.
not about baptism, but
All right.
he's a very open.
Well, how about when we get done, you and I talking? Let's go over and I'll connect the two of you, and then you can work out the actual relationships on that. If that's all right.
That's fine.
And
That's
so for
fine.
myself, I love it. I love to watch it. I love to observe it, and I love to sit in my pew and tear up
Well,
and choke up because of the work God's done in someone's life.
do you have any questions as a pastor for anything that I'm assuming you got the email about the wanting to be baptized, and then
Yeah.
the email about my background over the last 3 years.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's amazing the different things, but yeah, I mean, we've only begun our conversation here. So, for me, if I baptize someone, we're going to go through a whole conversation, and I would love to do that. And I want to talk more about it. So, first of all, we're a Baptist church, and so we don't baptize anybody apart from a credible profession of faith in Christ. And credible for me means, just I believe as much as I can know that the person's born again. And the way that happens is I ask questions and we have a conversation. And then secondly, is that the person understands baptism. And we talk about that. So there's two big topics. So one is basically your testimony.
Right.
And the other is the topic of water baptism.
There's, forgive me, I have to turn this off and on after 10 minutes, but
Yeah.
but at any rate, I hate to break the flow of a good
I
conversation.
understand. So tell me about what God's done in your life, Mark. I want to hear how God saved you. What he did in your life.
Just recent. There's God. The thing about I can give you my testimony, obviously.
You're going to have to if you do the water baptism. You got to write it out.
But yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I don't know if I want to read it. I'm not a big. I think that I could improvise,
Well,
but
all right,
whatever you want to.
The problem if you don't read it is we don't know what you're going to say. It's a way of approving what you say, and it's also a way of keeping you within 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Because I could go way over 3
Yeah,
minutes.
you can't do that. especially times 100 on Easter Sunday.
Okay.
You can't do that on Easter Sunday. You
Well.
got to stay within your boundaries.
All right. Well, look, you're the boss, so that.
Well, here's the thing. I believe, Mark, and I come up with this not just baptism but funerals. All right. How do I, as a pastor, sum up a human life in a 15-minute little speech? There's no way I can do that. Frankly, that's what heaven is for. Heaven is for a full, open, detailed disclosure of the grace of God in someone's life. And not just your life, but mine and everything. So we get to do that. The baptism is a chance to summarize quickly how God saved you through faith in Jesus Christ and brought you to this point of baptism. That's what you've got to do in 3 minutes.
And I think that in that letter you saw a lot of my past experiences and why God would take that road with me. I have no idea why I would go from a Mormon baptism as a young child to a oneness Pentecostal. In it's when Piper's preaching on the sovereignty of God in salvation, he says I would have done it differently. It's why did God take all these routes and routes, and so it makes